Hi, I'm Claire from Thirsty Brush and welcome to my channel. It's Friday, so we're doing a scraps project today and I've got a really fun pinata project to show you. I'm going to make it into a beautiful tropical card. So I had a look in my scraps today and I'd got some coloured envelopes I hadn't used for a while. So I took off the backs and I've used some other little bits of some glitter and just other bits of kind of quite lightweight cards and paper that I don't really use very often. So I'm trimming down just to get rid of any excess. This was from the envelope, so it's got that kind of funny bit where I took it apart, where it was gummed together. And I'm cutting strips of about 1.25 inches there. It's just double checking myself. 1 inch would work, even 1.5 inches would work. So don't worry if your scraps aren't exactly the right size. However, make them all, trim them to whatever size you decide. So if you decide it's 1.25 inches or 1 inch or 1.5 inches, stick with that for all your colours. The smaller your strips, as in if you're going for 1 inch, you're going to get more layers on your card, so you're going to need more pieces. So really I need, I think I cut a little bit more than this, but I actually need 2 strips of each colour to complete the card. I cut a few more because I thought I'll make this card again another time, but that works perfectly. So in total I've got 5 colours, 2 of each, so 10 strips. And I've done them in these lovely kind of bright rainbowy colours, which are really kind of tropical, and loads of people are making rainbow cards at the moment for our NHS workers. But you could use, you know, any kind of tropical colours, bright pinks, bright oranges, yellows, like you would see. Think of a kid's pinata for a party, and I'm sure all those colours will pop into your head, but of course you can use whatever you've got to. So just going with the red now. This is the last colour to chop down. Now I'm going to use some special scissors that I've got to chop all the little kind of feathery bits into these pieces of paper. If you haven't got these scissors, don't worry. I got mine from Amazon and I'll pop a link below. But if you haven't, you can use normal scissors. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to do all the little chops. So obviously you don't want to go right up, you need some space to be able to glue to your card. And then to give it a bit of shape, I'm using a gift card, and just like you would at school, or when you're wrapping presents, where you would use some open scissors to kind of curl ribbon, it's that technique. So what you need to do is chop into each one and then go back over it with a card to get a bit of shape and a bit of curl on that trimming. So if you've got, you'll see when I go to the gold, which I'm using as a yellow because I didn't have any yellow, then you'll notice it is one-sided and the gold is just on one side. So in this case, when you're curling, I'll show you in a moment, you turn it over to curl it to make sure your curl isn't going backwards rather than forwards. But you'll see when I do this next one. I'm just obsessed with these scissors. I think they're the best thing ever. It just makes me want to go and chop into anything that I've got. So I think I'll be making quite a lot of these cards. This would be a really cool technique as well, to decorate boxes for your cards, or for little treat boxes or sweet boxes for kids' parties and things like that once the parties all start up again. So just going through all the colours takes a little bit of time, particularly if you haven't got these type of scissors, but it's quite fun to do anyway. It's something that you can get kids involved in, keep them quiet for an hour or so. And then we're going to lay them all up on our card in a nice rainbow fashion. So if you're enjoying this video, then do like and subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and you can press the bell as well, and then you'll get notified every time I do a new video. Generally every Friday I do a scraps video like this. Every Thursday is Thirsty Thursday, as I'm from the Thirsty Brush brand, and then we do kind of card making with using some of our stamp and die designs, but I'll try and show you some techniques as much as possible. And then in between, sometimes you get some watercolouring art techniques from me and other bits and pieces, some sometimes I get asked for certain projects, or sometimes it's just something that I'm working on and like to record it to show you what I'm up to. You will also see a section in the playlists for new product reveals. So yes, we do a collection of stamps, dies, stencils, papers, and we're just getting into things like embossing powders and paints. So if you look in that section, each time we reveal a new product, then it will be in there, but most of my videos are more about techniques and getting you crafting and having some fun, rather than you having to specifically have these products. So the next stage, I've done all the strips, is I'm using stamp set. Let me just double check this. Elegant Just Like You, which is a lovely hand-drawn lily that I did, and I'm stamping out onto some scraps of vellum, and I'm going to heat emboss because I'm going to use a clear luminosity ink pad to get some sticky on there, and then our luminosity gold embossing powder or gold digger on it. But again, use whatever you've got at home. You don't need to do these onto vellum or heat emboss at all. You could just use ink on normal paper and then colour it in if you want. But I'm going to show you a fun colouring technique as well once these are embossed. So I want 3 flowers. I couldn't fit 3 on this piece of paper. So I'm just going to heat emboss those and then grab some other vellum to do the 3rd flower. So there we go, just cleaning off my stamp and make sure all that excess sticky ink is off there and pop it back on its carrier sheet. Make sure that those lovely stamps that we buy keep fresh and lovely. And you can see how quick this embossing powder really works on the vellum. The thinner the paper, the quicker it will go with the heat tool. And like I say, I'm just doing that 3rd flower. So I've done 1 of the larger lilies and 2 of the smaller lilies that I'm going to create like a little tropical flower bunch. Be nice to use if you've got, say, a hibiscus stamp, if you haven't got this one. Any kind of tropical flowers or leaves would work for this. And same process, just the luminosity embossing ink or any embossing ink you've got, and the gold powder, and then heat set. So quite quick and easy. That final heat set to do. And then if you do have the coordinating dies that cut the outer, they normally do about a 1mm border outline dies, then you can use those, but you need to chop off the stems, or you can fussy cut if you haven't got the dies. Now what I'm doing here is a technique on vellum using some alcohol markers, and these are the Stamps by Me Gossip markers, which are absolutely fab and blend beautifully. So I just showed you the 2 colours I'm using there, which are, let me get them, and I can read out the numbers for you. They are R16 Coral Pink and R2 Old Red. So I'm putting the Old Red on first, which is the darker colour. Put that on all flowers, on all petals, just about halfway up, and then I'll go back in with the lighter colour and just blend it out. But you'll notice I turned over the vellums first. By all means, if you want this on the front, but I like the kind of muted look you get by colouring on the back of vellum, and then obviously you got that gold embossing as well on top. It kind of means that you don't have to be too precise as well about your colouring, because it's not as bright on the back as it is on the front. It just gives a cool effect. So if you haven't got these particular colours, don't worry, just use something that blends well. I wanted some kind of bright reds, reddy pinks to go with the rainbow, but you can use whatever colour combination you fancy. So that's the larger flower done. Just go back in with this slightly lighter red and do all the individual petals of the smaller lilies. So this is kind of giving them that kind of hibiscus look anyway, even though it is technically a stargazer lily. But you know, you can make things adapt to whatever project that you've got. It's nice to do something fun with colour. So I'll turn these over now and you'll see the lovely effect you get with the gold embossing and that kind of muted colour. I just think it looks really, really pretty. So now the final element I need is a sentiment. So I've got some tiny scraps of black card here and this lovely hay sentiment from our special word dies. And I'm just cutting it out twice to make it a little bit stronger because I want it to be like almost like a little chipboard effect. I'm going to glue those two pieces together. So I'm using a 5x7 card blank, and to adhere the strips of Pinata, the kind of feathered tassels if you like, I've got a piece of white card that's slightly smaller than the card blank. I'm just going to have a play around before I glue anything down and make sure all the pieces I've got, decide which colour order I want to put them in and roughly where I want them positioned so everything fits nicely. So it's worth doing this. You'll notice that I kind of move everything back then and go back in and glue it all individually, but it's worth doing this beforehand rather than getting it wrong and you've got it already glued down and you're kind of stuck. So I've removed them off, but I've kept them in the right order, and I'm starting from bottom up, so you haven't got to worry about tucking things under the tassels. This is the easiest way to do it. So for my rainbow, I'm going purple, blue, green, the gold, which is kind of like my version of the yellow because I didn't have a yellow card or paper to hand. And again, if you've got this weight of paper or card, but you haven't got the right colours, use pens, use paints, whatever you've got around and colour it in first. There are ways around things, particularly in lockdown at the moment, where we're having to find ways to use what we've got. So it's really fun to do that, and then it feels quite satisfying once it's finished. So I'm just putting a bit of wet glue. I use Pinata glue. It's the bookbinding one, and it's a clear drying wet glue. I just think it's fabulous and it gives a really good stick. It's got an ultra fine nozzle, which is great. You'll see when I put the little sentiment together because it's very, very fine. So don't worry about the fact that that's overlapped the card. What I'm going to do then is just turn it over and use the side of the card as a guide so I can trim and get rid of those bits. Got a bit of wet glue there so things are sticking to my scissors. So always do this from the back, and then you can get yourself a perfect straight line just by letting the scissors run along the side of that card. So then we should have a nice finished Pinata panel ready for layering our flowers and sentiment onto. Give it a bit of shape with the tassels, and I'm just going to wet glue, or you could use double-sided tape and pop that on the card blank. So let's pop this sentiment together. So like I say, use the really fine nozzle and just hold it together in my hands and put it together. Decided afterwards to not leave it plain black and to heat emboss it to match in the gold to match the heat embossing on the flowers. Now, of course, you could just cut the sentiment out of gold card, for example, but this technique of heat embossing sentiment dies is really cool because then you can really tie the exact shape together and it gives your project a coherent look. So what I do is I get my embossing pad back out, and I literally just press it in. I'm a bit naughty and tend to use my fingers to hold this sentiment in place while I heat set, which can be a bit tricky when it gets hot. Please use some tweezers to hold it, some crafted tweezers or normal tweezers, and then you don't have to hold the heat gun by your fingers. So I didn't really do that myself. So that's the hay is now gold, so I'm using another Pinata product, which is Pinata glue gel, which is a clear glue that gives dimension. So instead of using foam pads, which is great for using things like vellum and anything see-through, and then just back to the normal glue with the fine nozzle to get that sentiment onto. I'm going to layer it on top of the flowers, I think, on this project. So I hope you enjoy the techniques in this, and it's another way for you to use up your scraps. I hope you enjoyed the video in general, and like I say, do like and subscribe for some more information, or also check out these other videos at the end